Welcome into the season podcast, episode 34. A little bit of a Super Bowl recap and a season recap. Reminder to subscribe on YouTube if you're listening. Follow us on Instagram at the season pod. And if you listen on Apple or Spotify, hit 5 stars. It takes 2 seconds. Please do it. I don't know why, but just do it. Willie, this is not the last episode of the season, the pod, but it is the last episode of the 2025 season. Right, and we're not going to go dark over the offseason. Our cadence will slow down a bit, but this is sort of a big deal, right? Because I remember if we go back to last spring, we were sitting, I think we were having a margarita at like a little spring get-together with some buddies. And we mentioned to each other like, hey, maybe we should do a podcast, right? We didn't really know what we would talk about. We had done some episodes on your Dad Season podcast together, and we didn't really know what we would talk about or how often we would do it or where we would do it. All those things were question marks, right? And quite frankly, when we started, I was like, is anyone even going to listen? And here we are. We really did our first season episode for this podcast in like late August during the preseason, right? Here we are at the end of the 2025 season with well over 10,000 listeners per show. And I think the first thing is thank you to each one of those people that take the time to listen to even 5 minutes of the show, whether it's 5 minutes, 60 minutes, or some of our shows went long, almost 2 hours.
Yeah.
Whether you listen to any of it, like a huge thank you from Nick and I, because we have truly enjoyed this. The guy's married to my sister. And so getting a chance to hang with you and do this with you has been like a true joy. And for people to take the time to listen to our discussions, obviously I know Eagles fans care about what Nick has to say. I get it. But at the same time, like our discussions, people caring about him, commenting on him, subscribing, following, I didn't even know if any of that would happen. And so here we are after one season, and we are eternally grateful for the opportunity to do this and to do it together. It's been a lot of fun.
It's sort of been a blur. I mean, just thinking back, last night, there's always like final thoughts before we go into an episode. Hey, like this is what's happening in the NFL, or this is a cool topic. Hey, maybe we can just like do this, whatever. I was like, man, I just remember at the beginning of the podcast, beginning of the year, I always go back to when we were in Hawaii with our buddies. And we wanted to get some content.
In August.
Yeah, in August. And we just set it up and we're learning how to do it, grassroots.
Holding mics?
Yeah, holding these little Bluetooth mics, using my little Samsung Z Fold phone, setting it up, sitting there in the beautiful Hawaii right before we play golf. And just looking where we've come from, the amount of listens, the amount of episodes we've done. Because we're on episode 34, but we actually just started making everything like an episode because we were doing so many mini pods that were
probably like 55 episodes.
Yeah, we have a lot more than that, but we started labeling them differently because those became episodes. Some of our miniature pods became some really high listened to episodes. So we're like, let's just make everything an episode. So it's really cool to end the season today. And then what's cool about when we were players, like we always had the off season, which is a different rhythm, different things going on. I remember when early on in my off-season career and yours as well, we had the same off-season was going to Equinox and playing a little pickup basketball.
So much fun.
Having that Poke Bowl at Equinox, which was fantastic.
Dunking on guys, all that stuff. Yeah.
So like there's a different rhythm. So we would play, Evan and I would always play basketball in the off-season.
We dunk on each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one of my favorite stories was, this was early on. I think Tori and I are just dating, or maybe we're engaged. And Ev played basketball at Stanford. Ryan, his brother, played basketball at UC Davis. I was a big basketball player as well. And I remember we're at Equinox, and there was a couple of guys that played college basketball there. And, you know, they were our size, if not a little bigger. And one of them wanted to guard me. He's like, no, I'm going to guard him. Because I thought you were trying to protect me. I was like, no, I got him. Like, you go over there.
No.
Man, I'm like, that's cool, man. Like, brother-in-law trying to protect me? This is cool. Dude, first time down, you post up and elbowed me right in the sternum and just took it. And I remember thinking, like, all right, it's on.
Yeah.
I was like,
Trying to protect you. It's basketball. Kidding me?
Brotherly love. I loved
basketball.
it. But those are some of my favorite memories was the off-season. Basketball, different rhythms, different type of workouts.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to do on the podcast is, you know, NFL, there'll still be some news. But we also have a lot of buddies that did a lot of different, you know, sports, whether it's basketball, golf, baseball, you know, and then we'll have football. You know, a lot of teammates that were with the Eagles. We have a lot of our fan base loves Philadelphia sports. So having those guys on, having conversations at a high level, it's going to be a lot of fun, but it'll be a different rhythm.
We'll find a cadence for the offseason as far as how often we do our shows. It won't be quite as often as during the season, but in the comment section, if you don't mind, if there's a particular guest or topic that you think would be interesting for the season, this offseason, I mean, it could be something like youth sports all the way to like, oh, we want to hear what that guy has to say, try to have him on. leave it in the top or the comment section. We'll check it out and we'll do everything we can to make it work. It could be a culture, a sports thing, whatever. We will work to get that person on, and if there's enough demand, and have that conversation with them, right? I think we have a chance to do some pretty fun things this offseason. Also, a special thank you to Change for Balance. Roddy and John produce our show, this awesome studio that we're in, the time they take to do it. They do a fantastic job doing it as well, so we're immensely thankful for that. And Tanner as well on the Reels. If you follow us on Instagram, a lot of our social media and also shorts on YouTube and postings on YouTube are handled by Tanner, and Tanner has done a fantastic job as well this year to kind of round out everything this show has to offer. So it has been a very fun first year, and we're excited to do this sort of final episode for the 2025 season before we head into the offseason. The Super Bowl now, today's Thursday. The Super Bowl was on Sunday. That feels like weeks ago.
Yeah.
I know everyone's already filtered through all the takes, right? You haven't heard ours. We're not going to act like the game was yesterday, but we do have some reactions to the game after things have settled a little bit, which I think will be fun to talk about. So as everybody knows, the Seattle Seahawks win Super Bowl 60 by a score of 29-13. And I don't think that score really tells the story. Even when the game was 9-0, it felt like this game's over, right? Not because Seattle's going to score 50 points, but I'm not sure the Patriots can even score anymore. Like, we were starting to wonder, is this going to be a shutout, right? It was a legitimate question, like, after halftime, is this thing going to be a shutout? Prior to the game, my prediction was, okay, the Seahawks have played in 2 Super Bowls in the last, decade. The first one, they drilled Denver 43-8. Their defense was dominant, right? And then the second one, they obviously was much closer. They ended up losing to the Patriots by not running the football with Marshawn Lynch. Everyone's aware of that one. I thought this game would more closely resemble the Denver game. They didn't score 43 points, but it certainly felt that way. Like, the Patriots were struggling to even gain a yard for the most part over the course of the game, and the Patriots were dominant. And this is what domination looks like. 40% of the Pats' offensive plays went for 0 or negative yards in the game. 40%. Drake had 3 giveaways, and he was sacked 6 times and looked like a second-year quarterback in that spot. Like, one thing Drake is going to have to work on is being smart and not taking sacks. He's already had as many 5+ sack games in his 2-year career as Tom Brady had, and Peyton Manning had their entire career.
Oh, wow.
That's something to keep in mind. Part of it is the offensive line issues, right? The other part of it is just being smart, right? And not and dirting the ball when you got to dirt the ball and not being stupid. Now, Drake is more mobile, so he trusts his legs more than both those guys. So I get it. It's going to be a little bit higher, but that's where he's got to get better. And the Patriots punted every possession in the first half, every single possession. And then the second half, they largely did the exact same thing, and they mixed in some turnovers as well. So that's where it started to get even tougher. So I know they scored some points towards the end, but this was absolute domination by the Seahawks, and we'll talk more about how the Seahawks did that. But this was utter domination.
I remember when we were watching a game together, several times I was like, is this going to be the first year that there's going to be a specialist get the Super Bowl MVP?
We were joking every play, like, is he going to get the MVP? Is he going to get the MVP?
Like, you didn't know. And then, I mean, I had Kenneth Walker early in the game, but at one point I was like, it's got to be the field goal kicker. But then I thought about it. It's more than that. It's like, all right, marketability, the future, the franchise, going down to Disneyland. No matter what, Sam Darnold's going to be down at Disneyland with the MVP, because I don't think it's going to be Sam Darnold. But that was it.
You're right.
It was, yeah, and he was there.
You've negotiated with Disney on this before, clearly.
Yeah, I know what it's like. I negotiated after we won the game, not before we won the game. But it was just a strange game. It was honestly another boring Super Bowl. That's 2 in a row. Obviously, the last year the Eagles fans were very excited, but just blew out the Chiefs. This year, we talked about it all season, and even going in the Super Bowl, we just felt the NFC was a much, much stronger conference than the AFC. The AFC, just a lot of coaches fired, especially the Patriots schedule. I know you're going to get into that. It just wasn't a really strong conference. But you never – the last thing we said too was, but you never know on Super Bowl Sunday. Like, it's the Super Bowl. All you got to do is put it together for one game. But it showed. I mean, Seattle Seahawks being in the NFC West, which I think is probably the strongest conference this last year.
They might have the 3 best teams in football.
I think they do.
Like, the Niners might be the 3rd best team in the NFC West. They also might be the 3rd best team in football. It's very possible.
I think so. I mean, obviously the Los Angeles Rams are outstanding. Yeah. I mean, just look at – and I can't believe it was a discussion. And I was sort of laughing at the discussion the last several weeks of MVP. I thought it was always obvious Matthew Stafford. Strength of schedule, quality of play, statistics, what he's doing – all these things over Drake May. Thought Drake May had an outstanding year, absolutely in the discussion. It was a really, really tight vote tally, really, really tight. But I just thought, man, when people they don't really talk about strength of schedule. That matters.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a weak schedule and you're not playing against a quarterback or a coaching staff that has the ability to put points on the board, it's a little bit easier as a quarterback. I mean, when you're playing against a strong schedule, great quarterbacks, better defenses, it's a lot harder. But what Matthew Stafford did, I mean, just look at what he did every single time he played the Seattle Seahawks. He was outstanding.
Right.
And the New England Patriots have that film of him playing. Like, if I'm the New England Patriots going to the Super Bowl, I am dissecting what did McVay do?
Mm-hmm.
Every little aspect. What was Stafford doing? Now, the thing is, Drake May can't do what Stafford does because of timing and rhythm and all that. Stafford's releasing that ball really early, and it showed in the Super Bowl.
So to your point about where the Patriots are from a scheduling standpoint and how that mattered, the first thing I'll say is this. We're not even 365 days into the Vrabel era. Okay, so I don't want to be too hard on this team because there's holes on this roster. Yeah, their schedule was favorable. But this team was 4-13 the last 2 years, and they're not even a full year into the Vrabel era, and they just played in a Super Bowl. So hats off to the Patriots, right? Like 14-3 in the regular season. And now granted, they finally played Denver, and Denver doesn't have Bo Nix, and there's snow, and I get that they have a few things went their way, right? But hats off to the Patriots for what they accomplished under Mike Vrabel in year one. That being said, their schedule and most divisional games, quite frankly, were garbage, and it caught up with them. So let me give you an example. 12 of their 17 regular season games were against a team that fired their coach at the end of the season. 12 of their 17. That means it was a bad team.
Wait, hold on. How many coaches were fired in the NFL this season?
Well, there were 10 openings. Were they all fired? Yeah, I guess they were. Yeah, so 10.
They played against every coach.
Well, remember, some of those are duplicate games, though, right? Because Miami fired their coach, and they played Miami twice, right?
Man, what has there ever been a schedule in the history of the NFL
I don't know.
that's been more
Well,
favorable?
I'm not done.
I know
it gets worse. So 12 of their 17 were against a team that fired their head coach. And then 2 more were against the Jets because the Jets didn't fire their head coach, and the Jets were awful. And then 3 others were against the NFC South. So what did I just do there? 12 plus 2 so that's 17. 3 others were against the NFC South, which is an incredibly weak division. And then they had another one against the Bengals, who also sucked. So that's their schedule this year. It was awful, okay? Now, in August, when we look at it, we think, okay, that's an advantage. They could make it to the playoffs. We said, like, Patriots keep an eye on them. Yeah. Soft schedule, new head coach. Drake looks really good. We didn't think they were going to go to the Super Bowl. But for a while, it's a huge advantage because you're winning games. You're stacking wins. It's like, man, they're a contender. And then you get and play some serious competition in the playoffs. Like, in the playoffs, they were not, even though they were winning, they weren't nearly as productive as they were in the regular season, especially offensively. Their defense was good.
Yeah.
But then you play a team like the Seahawks and you get exposed. And it's funny to say that in the NFL, but that sort of happened, right? There's no question that schedule was the biggest factor in them being 14-3. And then I would say Coach of the Year, Mike Vrabel. Huge, right?
Yeah.
Great job. And then Drake May, right, who had basically an MVP-type season against this schedule. But this schedule was bad, right? And we got to add to, contributing to this, the offensive line as the season wore on underperformed for the Patriots. So a lot of emphasis is on Will Campbell, a rookie at left tackle who really wasn't even healthy. His knee's bad. There are questions that, like, is he physically built to play left tackle? Are his arms long enough? He struggles with long-armed, rangy pass rushers. Okay, that's a legitimate issue. If you look at his body type, you're like, is he more of a guard or is he left? Those questions are fair, right? But at the end of the day, the guy's a rookie. He's a high pick, top 5 pick, I believe he was.
It's a long season for him. I mean,
it's tough,
yeah,
right? A lot of pressure on him. And Vrabel has said since the end of the season that he will stay at left tackle, right? They feel they drafted him there for a reason. He wasn't healthy at the end of the year. He struggled against good long pass rushers, but they're saying he'll stay there. So
he doesn't have to make that decision right now. I mean, it'd be silly. And the thing is, even if he says it's open, like, yeah, that's probably what he's going to do. But if he puts any seed of doubt, the media is going to run with it. Yeah. Oh, they're switching. It's like,
good point.
I got to be confident.
Put it to bed now.
Put it to bed right now. But that doesn't mean I can't switch it. Like, he's our left tackle. We're going to work with him. He's a rookie, guys. Mm-hmm. Rookie year. What an impressive rookie year. I know Super Bowl performance was not what any lineman would want, but rookie year is a tough year. You're learning the game. And to start at left tackle for New England Patriots who play in the Super Bowl, like, very impressive. He's just going to build. He's going to have time to breathe in the offseason. Give him some time. If he does switch to guard, who cares? Yeah. Like, as long as he's playing and being productive, that's what matters.
I give, in another element of this game, I give Josh McDaniels a little bit of grace because at the end of the day, as you know, when you're playing offense and a team can pretty consistently, and I'll get to the pressures that Seattle brought, but generally getting there with 4 rushers and making it tough on a quarterback, for a quarterback, it makes it feel like there's 15 defenders on a field. When someone consistently gets there with 4 and can drop 7 and play either man coverage or some version of man or some version of zone, that is really difficult for a quarterback, right? Because you're like, all right, usually when I'm getting pressure, there's a quick answer because we're hot off someone or there's really nowhere to go.
Yeah.
When they're dropping 7, they're getting there with 4 consistently, right? So I want to criticize Josh a little bit for not having more answers for that. But at the same time, I'm sure Josh would sit there with a laundry list of items that he wanted to get to, but he's like, Evan, if I can't block 4, it's really difficult for us. And you know, what it also causes when you do block 4, the quarterback likes to take a page out of Sam Darnold's book, start seeing ghosts a little bit, right? When you finally do block 4, your quarterback is hesitant, doesn't trust it, and things start to fall apart pretty quick. So I don't think Josh did a great job of finding adjustments, but at the same time, I understand that's very difficult to do.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the big thing when we were watching the game, I noticed it early, was Drake May was taking a half hitch too long on a lot of his reads, and that half hitch is why he was getting hit or getting sacked or what it may be. And I had alluded to a couple minutes ago was Matthew Stafford. I mean, he's the one that you want to look at playing the Seattle Seahawks, who dissected him and played at that level that just really took it to him every single time. It's just, you know, the Seattle Seahawks as a team were a better team than the Los Angeles Rams this year. When Matthew Stafford's dropping, his timing and rhythm, I mean, obviously he's got elite arm strength. Yeah. He always has. But then you add timing and rhythm and him throwing the ball before his guys are open, it's unstoppable.
Yeah. He's also unafraid because of all his experience.
Yeah,
right?
and it's going to come. It's going to come with Drake May. He's going to have a good offseason. I mean, what he learned this year, being, you know, second in MVP voting, like he's going to have to work hard this offseason to timing and rhythm and being even more comfortable in this offense. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be a really dangerous thing for the New England Patriots when he gets to that experience. But you can tell when he's dropping this game, he's a little skittish. And then there's all this news about his shoulder, you know, going in the game, you know, shoulder being banged up. Maybe that's the reason he was a little skittish and stuff. But we know with the anti-inflammatories they give you before games, a lot of time the shoulder and everything goes away for the game.
Adrenaline.
It'll be sore. But, you know, those are all things. Context is everything. I mean, we got a first-year left tackle and a second-year quarterback who, you know what, guys, you did what you're supposed to do with your schedule. It was a favorable schedule. No one really knew that before the season. Then the season starts and it takes place, and you did what you were supposed to do. You got to the Super Bowl. Mike Vrabel, coach of the year, outstanding coach, always has been an outstanding coach. You know, there's a lot to learn from. So this offseason will be a big one for them to get back to work. There's been no quarterback in year 2 that's made the Super Bowl has ever gone back to the Super Bowl. So will Drake be the first? No year 2 quarterback who's gone to the Super Bowl that year has never ever gone back.
Well, one thing I can promise you, and we'll get to this in a minute, the schedule will be tougher. They'll have a first-place schedule next year. So when they play out of division, they'll play other first-place teams. Yeah. And the league is built for parity. Yeah. All the way to free agency in the draft, all the way up to scheduling, right? So it's going to become that much more difficult. The schedule won't be as much of their friend next year. Now, will the Jets and Miami suck? Maybe. But Buffalo will be a contender, right? So, I mean, the schedule will be more difficult.
I can't see the Jets getting much better.
As I mentioned Josh McDaniels. One coaching decision I will criticize, and it ended up not mattering, thankfully. But the one thing that made no sense that Mike Vrabel did, in the fourth quarter they scored, and the score became 19-6 after the touchdown. And you have a decision at that point to go for 2 to make it 19-8, or to go for 1 and make it 19-7. In the fourth quarter, now at some points of the game you don't want to chase points. In the fourth quarter, to not want to be down 11 to where it just takes another touchdown or a 2-point conversion and a field goal to tie it versus being down 12, to me made no sense. Like, there wasn't much risk associated with going for it and not getting it. There was plenty of risk associated with not going for it and just making it 19-7. There had not been a lot of scoring in the game, so it's silly to think, well, there's going to be plenty more scoring. That point probably won't matter as much. They should have gone for 2. Mike Tirico, like, bless his heart, is sitting there like, they're going to go for 2 here. And then they line up and kick an extra point. He's like, they don't want to go down 11? That's really odd. Maybe it was a communication issue, or maybe it was really Mike Vrabel thinking, no, I'm just going to go for 1. That one thankfully didn't impact the game down the stretch, but that didn't make any sense to me at all.
Yeah, I mean, I was more upset because I had that square.
Yeah, there
like,
you go.
I literally was
what's
like,
going on here?
I'm like,
maybe
they scored. I'm like, I'm going to get the square.
Maybe Vrabel had the square 7.
I'm like, yes, I'm finally going to get the square, and I'm not going to be the big loser today. And then I'm like, they have to. I'm doing the math in my head.
Come on, Mike.
I'm like, okay, they got to go down 11. They're not scoring all the things you just said. They kicked the field goal. I'm like, he must have got a picture of the squares and said, hey, I want Doug DePita to win this one, not Nick Foles. And it's okay.
Nobody asked him after the game either. And maybe obviously it's because it ended up not mattering. But, like, had it mattered, But I still think someone at some point should be like, was that an accident or was that on purpose?
Yeah.
Because there's no explanation.
Well, usually Mike Vrabel is dialed in on all those
Yeah.
coaching decisions and everything. And I mean, I guess the other philosophy is say, hey, listen, we're not going to do that. We're going to go for 2 more touchdowns.
Yeah.
Like, but it's like,
No, not in that game.
With the way this game's going,
No.
man, like,
Not in that game, man.
your offense isn't moving the ball. Like, it's not looking good. I mean, Seattle offensively wasn't doing a whole lot. It was just a defensive battle. I mean, honestly, the New England defense, Gonzalez, I thought he played outstanding, man. I thought he was the only one keeping them in it, man.
So I think Seattle was better. I think, to be very clear, I think Seattle on that stage, not in Foxborough or not on a big stage at a neutral site like that, I think Seattle wins 10 out of 10 times. I know that sounds crazy in the NFL to say. And largely because I think they were better at every single position except Christian Gonzalez.
Dude, he was unreal.
The Seahawks were better at every single position on the field.
I think the Seahawks score over 40 points if it isn't for him.
Yeah,
I think
you're
he
probably
single-handedly kept them at
Great
29.
player.
Like, I thought, what a performance. And I forget, I don't know if it was on TV or whatever. Everyone's just saying how bad everyone on, it might have been Vrabel after the game. No one played good. Everyone's, dude, that dude played pretty darn good.
He's that brand of corner, long, rangy, and smooth.
Yeah.
And can run and turn his hips. He's special, dude. And he's got ball skills, too.
Yeah,
And
he's young.
Yeah.
He's
No,
young. I was really impressed with him. Super bright future for him.
All right, so how did Seattle do it? So we went over some of the issues with New England there.
Should we just have Tanner on? Just like have Tanner sit here.
Right here.
We got a Seahawks fan.
Yeah,
we got a Seattle guy who's pumped.
Our guy Tanner Pierce, big Seattle fan. Love Seattle.
Yeah.
How'd they do it? So I thought it was a masterclass by a very, very talented defense. Okay, so yes, they're good at every position that allows them to scheme a certain way, but you still have to give the coaching staff credit for scheming accordingly, even though these guys are, immensely talented. I thought New England had no hot adjustments for the most part for what Witherspoon was doing. So Witherspoon is the nickel on this defense, and in some cases he'll move inside and be the nickel. In some cases, Nick Eamon is a nickel, but he brought pressure several times. Now here's what's interesting about the game and the chess match that's taking place inside the game. This is where I give the Seattle staff credit. So Witherspoon from the slot blitzed 21 times all season, or let's just say either slot or like a boundary corner where it's feasible to blitz, right? 21 times the whole year. In this game alone, he blitzed 6 times. Okay, that's a lot in one game for one guy that only blitzed 21 times all season over 17 games. So I think he played all season in every game, but either way. And what it says is like every time you're game planning in the NFL or you're getting ready for a game watching film, what coaches will always tell you that defensive coordinators' mentality is if you show you can't stop it, they will continue to bring it until you do stop it.
Yeah.
It's one of the old adages. It's always been around in football. These guys defensive coordinators are smart, but sometimes it's just as simple as, oh, they can't stop this. We've done it twice now. Do it again. Oh, they didn't stop. Do it again. Right? Very simple. Like it's a blitz that everyone in the NFL has. And they just kept doing it time and time again. And for the most part, they were either disrupting Drake or they were getting there all together. Remember, he was sacked 6 times. They were flushing him out of the pocket, broken play, all those things. And then when Drake May did get time, he didn't trust it. He hesitated and made poor throws, largely because of what Seattle was doing defensively. Here's another thing I noticed in the game many times from Seattle defensively, which is this is high level stuff. Like it's good stuff. When defensively, when you run motions and shifts, like when you see teams on offense running motions and shifts, oftentimes when you run with them, you're sort of telling the other, and defenses know this, you're sort of telling the other team it's a tell. You're trying to tell them we're basically in man coverage, right? We're running with them, right? Occasionally, really good defenses that have veterans on that side of the ball that know what they're doing and coaches that trust those players on defense, like Mike McDonald does with this defense, they'll start changing up coverages after running with them in motions. And many times in watching the game back, I saw them running with receivers, the defenses, running with receivers in motions or shifts before the snap. And once they got there, they'd switch to zone. That for a second-year quarterback is extreme. And you're the quarterback here. I'm going to defer to you. That is extremely difficult for a second-year quarterback to process because he's told his whole career, all right, shift or, bring the motion. He comes, he sees a guy running. He's okay, I got man. Okay, at least I know I have man-to-man. Okay, well, now what are we doing? Okay, I'm going here, here, and here.
Yep.
Ball snap, it's zone.
Yep.
Nick, how hard is that?
As a year 2 quarterback, it's extremely difficult. That's the thing. Every year, it's amazing. These defensive coordinators, if the offense has the edge the next year, the defensive coordinators come out with a new wrinkle that's amazing. I forget what year it was, but, we'd always empty formation, running back out, to the boundary. Hey, we'd be taught, hey, who's covering the running back? Is it a linebacker? Hey, if it's a linebacker, you got man coverage across the board. If it's man coverage, this is what you're reading. Boom, boom, boom. Post safety look. This is what you're doing. I remember we're doing it. Linebacker runs out. Boom. Ball snap. It's cover 2. Zone.
That's no fun.
The linebacker then became the hard corner. Fantastic, brilliant, messes with your mind. And the second that seed of doubt gets placed, and that was their goal.
Now you start hesitating, right?
The Seattle Seahawks, what they were going to do is, this is a year 2 quarterback. We're going to do these pressures. They don't have an answer. Hey, we're going to mess with the coverage, the disguises, because that's how you can mess with any quarterback, but especially a young quarterback. Hey, man, zone tails. We're going to rattle them a little bit. The second that seed of doubt is in your head, it slows down your ability to process, and then you're thinking. And you could tell when you're in rhythm and you're not really thinking, you're just reacting, everything's smooth, balls ripping out, you're on time, in rhythm, making these fantastic throws. The second a seed of doubt is placed in that mind, your brain goes into overdrive. Yep. And think about life. Think about golf. Like sometimes in golf, you shank a ball. All of a sudden, you're like, oh my goodness, where'd that come from? I'm thinking, what am I doing? And then you can't get it back.
You go from subconscious to conscious.
And you don't want to be there.
Right?
And people will be like, wait, I thought you want to think. No. When you're playing at this elite, like in high school.
You want to react.
In high school, you can think. It's a slower game. Guys are pretty wide open. You don't realize it then, but they are. College, you can still get away with thinking because guys aren't it's not as, covered as NFL. You got to play in your subconscious thought. You got to be read, react. That's why preparation is so important. But as a defensive coordinator, placing a seed of doubt in the quarterback's mind slows him down and makes him present and makes him think. And you could tell with the extra hitch, that's what was going on with Drake May. And this is just year 2, man. Year 2 to lead your team to a Super Bowl is fantastic. He's got a lot of growth that's going to happen. But, man, great job by the Seattle Seahawks defense.
It speaks to, going into the Denver game, how we said on this show, we're like, look, we can talk all day about Jarrett Stidham and being like, he hasn't played that much. The other dude's only in year 2 as well. Yeah. And that's the part I think we probably overlooked because he was having an MVP season that, there's a lot of things that are new to him, right? And we saw it in that game. To your point about subconscious, we've all been to a symphony. And you watch an orchestra.
I haven't been to a
Well, you should go because it's beautiful. But if you watch a guy or a woman playing a violin, do you think he or she is sitting there being thinking, okay, got to go here, got to go here. There is a subconscious that takes over. And they're literally just going like this. And I swear, when you watch them in their brain, they could be thinking about something else. What are we doing for dinner tonight? I'm not really sure. And they're literally just going, that to some extent is playing quarterback, right? And reacting. Now, obviously, before the snap, you're seeing it, you're locked in. But when the bullets start flying, it is 100% react. And that's why training is so important. It's reacting.
Training fundamentals, right? 10,000 hours.
It's reacting. It's making it second nature, right? And so what they got Drake May to do consistently throughout the game is getting away from subconscious and second nature and actually thinking about what's going on. And by the time when you're consciously giving it thought, by the time you come to the conclusion, it's too late. The clip of Julian Love.
Yeah, that's
right.
Brilliant. Yeah,
talking about the second-year quarterback. There's always this. Go look at it on Twitter or whatever.
He's on the sideline,
and he says, "Hey, there's always this this half hitch before he throws it. He's a second-year quarterback. He's not seeing it, and he picks him off 10 minutes later, because he knows that Dre is there's an extra second of thought, and in the NFL that extra second is too much. It's intentional thought as opposed to subconscious." And you end up losing because of it.
You know what? In year 2, I had a pretty good year with Chip Kelly. And I remember the timing and rhythm was so important. And fortunately, we were a no-huddle offense, so everything was going fast. So it was basketball. We talked about basketball earlier. When I played my best football is when I played in my basketball mind. Point guard, just let it rip, find the open guy, not think about it, just shoot. I remember that year I knew the timing and rhythm based on what I was being coached. Bill Lazor was my quarterback coach. He'd, harp on it every single day. I remember I would be ready to rip the ball. And if my body felt like it was covered, hey, I'm throwing a number 1, drop back, boom. I would then separate I would have my body, my mind would pause my throw, but it looked like a pump fake, but I was really ready to always rip the first one. But then inadvertently, it would turn into a pump fake, and then I could go, which totally messes up the defense. The second you separate your hands, the defense goes haywire. They're like little dogs, chasing, or the little laser thing, with the cat that jumps off the wall. Yeah, so they're going to chase that. So that's what naturally I did in year 2. I was always aggressive to one, and then I would adjust to the other ones. And that's just something I did. And I didn't do it. That was a no-huddle system, so it was a little easier to do that with. But that's the thing. As you grow, you learn how to read coverages. I think the big thing with Drake May this offseason when he's working through fundamentals, always work on your eyes. Your eyes. Hey, if I'm throwing to the right, I know if it's a 3-hitch throw, I know through my first 2 steps, I'm going to be left center field, with my eyes, but then on my third, I'm going to go find it and I'm going to rip it. I'm going to be ready to go. Those are things that guys don't work on that much when they're out there throwing. You're literally just dropping and throwing to guys. Everything should have intentionality. This offseason, his quarterback coach, I guarantee you they're going to work on it, is like, hey, we're going to throw the backside dagger, but I want you to read the front side comeback first, and then I want a big hitch up, fire it. It's going to be a second hitch throw across the middle because you're going left to right. This isn't your primary. Just making sure when you're out there working fundamentals and everything, it's all about fundamentals and training, being in the subconscious. That's the next big step. So this offseason for him, it's going to be a lot of that. And I go back to Matthew Stafford. He's brilliant at that. And I'm not saying go throw no-look throws. There might be a time and a place that you do that naturally. Matthew Stafford's not calculating that. That's just natural reaction when he's playing because he's played so much and he's played at such a high level. He can do the no-look stuff. He knows where guys are going to be. He can see out of his peripheral vision better than anyone. But in the offseason, those are the things you work on. Footwork, hey, I'm going to look off guys. I'm going to give, shoulder, maybe turn my shoulder left, throwing right, all those different things. It'll be a fun offseason for him. Whenever these games happen, I mean, they're tough and everything, but I think the coolest part about it is it shows flaws in your game.
Yeah.
And it's something that you can go course correct and work on it each and every day to prepare for the next season and then come out next season and prove everyone wrong.
Those are the things I think the Seahawks did well and why they dominated. Obviously, Kenneth Walker had a great game. He's proven to be a very good back that's about to be a free agent, and I'm sure they're going to try to re-sign him. There's weaknesses to his game. Chris Collinsworth hammered him mid-game. My God, Chris Collinsworth, dude. Chris Collinsworth was like, all right, he's not a good receiver, and he's not a good pass protector. It's like, dang, man, in the middle of the Super Bowl.
No, he said he was awful at it. I'm like, dude, this guy's a Super Bowl MVP right now. He's already over
and that may
yards.
be true, and that's why Zach Charbonnet is important to what they're doing, is because Zach makes up in some of those areas where maybe Kenneth Walker fails. But Kenneth had a great game and was a huge asset for them when Zach Charbonnet was hurt. They really needed Kenneth Walker to step up, and he did, and he's the MVP because of it. The postseason dominance for Seattle was real. They trailed for 95 seconds the entire postseason. Okay, and now granted, they had a bye in the first round, right? But it was real. It was dominant. So let's go over what we learned from this Super Bowl from Seattle, big picture, and what it means, right? So first thing is this. We can talk about we talk a lot on this show, especially in context of the Eagles. We talk about scheme, cool scheme all the time and things you can do offensively. But if you're just a casual football fan, just remember this, and you probably already know this, but this is a rule of thumb that holds true. This will always hold true. A lot of times what it comes down to is just whether your dudes can block their dudes in the trenches, right? Because nothing else works if you can't do it effectively. You can't run it. You can't throw it. If they're getting there with 4, all your cool concepts that your flashy offensive coordinator comes up with don't matter. There are certain things they can do to try to overcome that, move the pocket, all these things, screens, but generally speaking, the game is pretty simple from that standpoint. A lot of times it just comes down to that. You might be able to get away with some stuff, and there's exceptions here and there, but by and large, it really just comes back to that, right? Second, and we already mentioned this several times, this is also what we learned kind of as a tangent, Stafford's unreal, right? You watch this defense and how good they are. Now, granted, people are like, Phillip Rivers was even winning against he had scored 16 points in that game, right? Stafford on more than one occasion kind of tore this defense apart. And this defense is really, really good. Really good. And Stafford was throwing dimes. He's got good receivers. But Stafford's freaking good, given what he did against this defense on a fairly regular basis this year. Here's another one for you. So the Seahawks had the fewest fourth down attempts the entire season. In an era of the NFL where it feels like it's gone in a completely different direction. It's all risk-taking and now granted, this is a defensive head coach that probably values field position and being smart more. But they had the fewest fourth down attempts of anybody this season. But they have a great defense, and they felt like risks just weren't necessary. And that still works in today's NFL to be dominant.
I bet you see a drop in fourth down next year.
But to be fair, Sam Darnold, who's a really good player, led the league in turnovers. Okay, so Mike McDonald, if he's being very candid, might say, well, there are some situations, philosophically, I don't necessarily buy into we always have to go for it on fourth. But also, there were times where it wasn't perfect for Sam this year. And we turned it over too much. I didn't always trust him, which, fair, fine. So I realize every team's in a different boat, right?
Yeah.
Sean McVay's yeah, but you don't have Matt Stafford. If you have Matt Stafford, you go for it on fourth down more. Totally fine. That's fair. I get that. Not every situation is the same. I'm just pointing out that here we have a team who is pretty dominant this year and dominated in the playoffs and really is not a team that takes a lot of risks on fourth downs, plays field position, uses their defense. And folks, for those of you that think that you got to have this high-flying, high-scoring, bottom line is that still works in today's NFL to get you a title because we just saw it happen in real time. Yeah. You know what I mean? And also, Sam Darnold is good. Okay, I'm not taking anything away from Sam. Is he a tier 1 quarterback? No. But Sam Darnold is good.
Yeah.
But construction of this team shows that a Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen type quarterback leader is not necessarily mandatory in building a roster to win a championship. An evenly built roster, right? We've now seen 2 straight years, Eagles last year and Seahawks this year, where, and this might piss some people off, but it's the truth, where teams that were very well-rounded with really good defenses, run games, all that, won Super Bowls without a quarterback who is a true tier 1 guy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm not even saying Sam Darnold and Jalen Hurts are the exact same quarterback. It's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying neither. If you were to take like the top 4 quarterbacks in the league and say that's tier 1 or 5, neither one of them are in there.
Yeah, I think that's where
that's the truth.
You're gonna have a lot of Eagles fans in this.
It's gonna piss them off.
I know
Jalen was MVP last year of that Super Bowl. I get it.
But he's
not a tier 1 quarterback.
Listen. Okay, when they won their first Super Bowl, I was Super Bowl MVP. Was I a tier 1 quarterback? No, I wasn't. I was a backup quarterback.
You guys had a hell of a football team.
We had
and you executed.
Listen,
right?
It's all about having a great team, and that's why we've always said, and I will always say it: football is the greatest team sport. Because basketball, like one guy can loaf on the sideline or whatever, like you can still win a game. Football, one guy messes up on his job. On a play, it could ruin the entire play, and it's just one play, and it's
you can hurt a quarterback for the whole season if it happens too. Right?
Exactly,
takes a blindside hit or whatever,
but that's why you have to have a great leader at all positions. GM, head coach, quarterback. You talked about it starts in the trenches, right? And this is going to go back to the Eagles with the decisions they've made. I know we're talking all this stuff, but I'm going there. You got to have a great offensive line coach. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the biggest thing in this league. Like, man, if I'm a head coach or if I'm, offensive coordinator, my first hire, I'm going out there and finding the best offensive line coach because I know it starts right there. If our O-line cannot pick up blitzes, cannot recognize the defense and change the calls, because what people don't realize is you start with a base call, hey, 2-jet protection, we're going to go Lou, we're going to go to the field, we're going to slot. Hey, the free safety comes down. Hey, we need to go run. Hey, we need to repoint. If they aren't taught and ingrained to make those minor adjustments, because I've been on teams where the call starts, hey, we're going to teach you 2-jet, and this is what it's Lou. Quarterback, you want to switch it to anything else? You switch it. To me, that's a problem because you can, but like, why can't y'all switch it if y'all see it as well? Like, I'll switch it if I see it, but I'm also making sure my guys are on the line. Hey, you're off the line. Hey, is it man zone? Is this? Hey, if we see a simple free safety down, just run it real quick. Mm-hmm. Stuff like that. So that's where I think, it starts in the trenches. The best teams in the league, you look at their O-line, D-line, stuff like that. Great GMs know that's where it starts. John Snyder, this is, we've talked about statistically taking 2 totally different teams and same franchise, 2 totally different teams to the Super Bowl for victories. He really should be 3-0 in Super Bowls. Mm-hmm. He really should. The one that the Patriots won, shouldn't have won it.
Same franchise, different head coaches, completely different roster. There's no carryover.
There's no carryover.
I remember when I was a rookie in Green Bay, undrafted, show up. I get picked up at the airport, and you got to imagine the guy picking me up at the airport is probably lowest on the totem pole. Elliot Wolf picked me up at the airport, who now is the GM of the Patriots, and he drove me to the office where John Schneider, who was like a personnel guy under Ted Thompson, so he wasn't the GM for the Packers, where John Schneider's waiting for me to like walk me into the locker room, sign my contract and all that. And again, if you're dealing with me, right, coming in as an undrafted rookie, like you're not the highest. Those are my 2 like points of contact when I arrived. And look at what those guys are doing now. John is arguably one of the greatest, based off what he's done in Seattle, arguably one of the greatest executives of all time in the NFL already. And Elliot Wolf is the GM of the Patriots and just had a team in the Super Bowl. Pretty crazy, right?
I think it just shows that if you spend 15 to 20 minutes with Evan, it'll change your life.
That I didn't even think about it that way. Everyone that touched me won a Super Bowl except me.
Yeah.
How about that?
He's the lucky charm.
There we go. Yeah, I'm like Good Luck Chuck. That movie with Dane Cook. Like you date me, you go win a Super Bowl, man. I'm just gonna keep going nowhere. So again, point being here is like it doesn't, as we all know, a Patrick Mahomes is not mandatory to win a Super Bowl, right? To be very clear. And look, let's not crush Minnesota on the Sam Darnold note. Sam's a good player, but let's not crush and I realize that Minnesota's GM may have lost his job because of what Sam ended up doing. But let's not crush Minnesota for letting Sam walk because many teams did not pursue Sam in free agency.
Yeah.
And it's why Seattle was able to get Sam on 3 years, $100 million, which is a bargain relative to the rest of the market, right? They're underpaying a quarterback that just won him a Super Bowl. So let's not, like Minnesota, you're easy to say, oh man, you should have kept Sam. But many teams didn't chase Sam in free agency, right? The thought was he had been on 4 teams by that point. The Jets, Carolina, the Niners, and the Vikings. By the way, Sam Darnold has won more Super Bowls now than all 4 of those teams combined in the last 30 years, right? The Niners won, 85? 95? Something like that was their last Super Bowl, like 30 years ago. And the other ones, it's been forever, right? Jets, Vikings, and Panthers. Darnold's got a ring. None of those teams have a ring. Not all Darnold's fault. I mean, it's not all Darnold's doing that they have a ring, but still crazy.
I mean, he's in a pretty important position. I mean, the thing is, from a personality standpoint and everything, you can tell that he resonates with the guys in the locker room.
Yep.
He brings them together. He's not going to be detrimental to the team. I mean, there was, I'm not going to say his name, but there was, a quarterback that's, I don't think he's in the Hall of Fame yet, but, he's talking about how, defensive player won a Super Bowl with him, but he was like detrimental to the team. He wasn't a good part of the team. He was actually tough and doesn't have a lot of respect for him. It's like,
you talk about Joey Porter talking about Ben Roethlisberger?
Yeah.
Joey Porter hammered Roethlisberger.
Yeah.
Said he's not a good leader, all those things.
So it's like one of those things where, and I know Ben through the years has made a lot of changes in his life, his faith, in Christ. And there's been a lot of changes going on, and he's, wanting to be very impactful in doing those things. So I'm proud of him for that. This is way back when, right? This is early in his career when he was acting that way. I believe he's different now. Great family, great dad, all those things. But with Sam Darnold, you just see guys like him. He's just easygoing, chill, calm, and people don't realize, like, you go to these franchises, like the Jets. I mean, look at everyone that's been there. I mean, come on, guys. Like, it's tough. I mean, there's just those franchises that you go into and you're going to get beat up. For the long time, it's like the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's just how it is. But for him to be strong enough to continue to endure, continue to play, to love the game, you got to love the game to keep going, right? And just wait for his opportunities. When his opportunity came, he made the most of it.
Yeah.
And he's doing that. He's won a Super Bowl, but he's doing it in the right way. You can tell guys really resonate. They like being around him. He's a part of the team. He's not saying, I am the team. And I think that's what's different. What you get with Sam Darnold is, hey, he's a part of the team. Yeah. He's not above the team. There's some quarterbacks out there that feel they're above the team. I don't see that in Sam Darnold, and a big reason is because of the trajectory of his career and what he's gone on. He knows the importance of a great team, and everyone has, a part of it, and he sees that. And I think that's what makes him great is he knows I need my team, and I'm a part of this team. I'm not above it.
On a one hand, it's a feel-good story, right? A guy, 4 different teams, even though he was a very high pick, 4 different teams, and finally wins a Super Bowl and proves he is good enough. But separately, it sort of teaches the league a lesson, I think. The league can look at this and say, all right, maybe when we try to throw a quarterback under the bus and make it look like it's his fault and move on from him and then keep our same leaders in place and go find a different quarterback and ruin him too, it teaches the league a lesson, and it sort of tells us truth about the position and how necessary. Like, we already know this is the case. Everyone knows it's more than just the quarterback. But when these things happen, it makes teams like the Jets look even stupider, right? Or more stupid. That hey, we all knew it was true. Now we damn well know it's true, right? So it's kind of cool. So when it comes to repeating, we know this is difficult. We spent a lot of time this season earlier in the year talking about repeating and whether the Eagles could do it. And even if a team is built exactly the same way, it's hard to do. So what's next for the Hawks, and how likely is a repeat? Well, for one, like every really good team, we lose members of your staff. So last year the Eagles lost Kellen Moore. And we knew it would we knew it would be difficult. It was even more difficult because Kevin Patullo didn't live up to what they needed him to be, right? Clint Kubiak is the offensive coordinator for Seattle. They are led by their defense, but this offense was really good. And Clint's a big reason for that. He's gone. That'll be hard. It's hard to replace him. They haven't announced a replacement. If you go in-house, there are plenty of tales out there that say be cautious, right? Eagles are one of them. Be very careful, right? There's been more there was another one recently, too, where somebody went in-house. Oh, it was Detroit, right? Ben Johnson leaves, becomes the head coach of the Chicago Bears. Detroit goes in-house. 7 or 8 games in, Dan Campbell's like, this isn't working. I'm going to take over play calling. And they're searching all year long. Okay, so just because you want to keep members of your staff, like, for example, maybe your quarterback coach is going to go with Clint unless he becomes the OC. You're like, okay, let's just make him the offensive coordinator. Be very careful, right? Be very careful thinking that Clint was less responsible for it than you think he was, and you think you can replicate it with somebody else. If you're losing high-level talent, which Clint Kubiak is, which Kellen Moore is, when you're losing high-level talent, don't just think that next guy that is in the building that can replace him. You have to go find high-level talent to replace high-level talent. All right? That's just the facts, right? It's very risky to say, well, that guy, I want continuity, and that guy saw what we did last year. He'll be able to figure it out. I think it's very risky. And I think the Seahawks have to be very careful about that. Will they keep Kenneth Walker is another one, right? So Kenneth Walker, it seems like they will, Super Bowl MVP. Charbonnet is going to be out. He hurt his ACL towards the end of the season, but we'll see how much of next season he misses, if any. So Kenneth Walker, locking him up, keeping him around, that's going to be something they have to do as well.
You think they franchise tag him?
They might, if they can't come to an agreement. It's possible.
Because
right?
I do think, running backs.
That position's risky.
Running backs are always tricky. Those guys are workhorses. I have so much respect for running backs, but I know historically franchises don't like giving big, huge contracts to running backs just because you're touching the ball so much. There's so much risk of injury.
With a franchise tag, you can just live year to year.
Year to year.
It's expensive, but you can just live year to year.
Yeah.
Right?
So I think that's really in play this year. Just especially after the playoffs he had and being the Super Bowl MVP, I feel like he's probably going to want the highest paid contract, and I don't know if they're going to be willing to do that, but they do have the franchise tag available.
Ironically, or surprisingly, they actually have some cap space because they've drafted so well. So John comes from the Green Bay school of thought, where we get, obviously first rounders you expect to start, but second to fourth, fifth round, you find gems in those rounds that can start. You can live for 4 years underpaying those guys. They're really, sometimes you got to extend them sooner. But they actually have, relative to their success, they actually have some surprising cap space to be able to work around because they've drafted so well. That's a hat tip to John Schneider. Teams that don't go find Band-Aids in free agency and draft well end up with more cap space. So that is on their side. I do think they need to add another dynamic wide receiver. I don't know what Cooper Kupp's plans are. He's under contract, I think, till 2028. JSN is special. Cooper's not what he was 3 years ago. He's not that old, but to me, he's not what he was 3 years ago, production-wise, right? Barner's not a dominant tight end from a pass-catching standpoint. He's solid. But I do think they could add another legit receiving option.
A taller receiver,
bigger
guy.
Rashid Shaheed was a great in-season acquisition. That's also special teams, and he's a deep threat at all times. But, another guy.
Big boy.
Yeah, another big body that really could be a possession. Maybe they trade for A.J. Brown. I'm just kidding. Maybe they don't trade for A.J. Brown.
They had Metcalf.
Yeah. They got cap space and they have options, and John has a very good sense, John Schneider, their GM, of where to go with this stuff. So there's going to be, the league is built for parity. There's going to be challenges on them getting to where they want to get to repeat again next year. The league is going to, other teams are going to get better and all that. Rams are going to be good again, right? Matt Stafford's coming back.
He's
right?
back.
Yeah. So that's going to be interesting. But what's next for the Hawks?
And our 49ers moving their practice facility so guys stay healthy.
You see,
George Kittle
said that
where he talks about the
trees.
I heard that. You know what? I heard that several years ago. It must have been when I was playing, and they were talking about how all the trees didn't have leaves and they were dead. There's something there to it. He alluded to it.
The only thing I'll add to that, the quick answer to people that think that's stupid is that, dating back to the 80s, they've always practiced there. Now, the one thing I'll say is this, that I've not heard answered, is that substation as vast today as it's always, or should I say, is it more vast or more potent today than it was in the 80s? It's very possible. I can't remember what their local energy company is called. It's very possible that thing is more potent and servicing more people because the population has obviously expanded since then. It's very possible that thing is much more significant today than it was in the 80s. So don't tell me that until you tell me what, the wattage or however you measure that coming out of that substation. Don't tell me that doesn't matter because they've practiced by it forever until you tell me, has that thing expanded at all or become more powerful over the last decade?
And why did the NFL remove the trees?
I don't know. Great question.
And the reason this is brought up, they got to look into it. And I think George Kittle said, hey, let's just find out if it's affecting us or not. I think we should find out.
Totally.
But what people don't realize too is free agents, listen, that's going to affect free agency because guys, aren't going to look into the deep science of it all. They're just going to look at it at surface level like everyone else is and be like, hey, there's an issue there. That's it. That's all they're going to look at. Hey, I can go there. Hey, I'm going to this other team. I ain't messing with that. You just don't know. So they might be forced just because of perception.
Just to move
because they're not going to be able to get the free agent. Now that might be silly. But I know a lot of guys aren't diving deep into it. So they're just going to look at it at face value and be like, I'm going to go somewhere else.
If I were a free agent today, I wonder, and the team might be like, well, we don't really have a study to prove one way or another. Okay, fine. You have to move your facility. Anybody else in here familiar with real estate in Silicon Valley? Finding a place to put your facility with a field, that's not necessarily the highest and best use for real estate in Silicon Valley. And there are a lot of developers around there that pay boatloads of cash for real estate. Of all the places in the league, that's probably the most difficult just to say, let's just move it somewhere else. So they might be in a really tough spot. Land is incredibly scarce and expensive in that area. I don't know that it's as easy as just saying, let's just go find somewhere else.
You know,
right?
another option too is there's plenty of brilliant minds in technology in that area. Like maybe they put up a invisible wiring EMF system around the whole facility that blocks it out from even getting close to the field. You know, there's ways. I guarantee you there's something that can counteract it. There's some smart minds out there, and there's a lot of tech in Silicon Valley. So I guarantee you the NFL is already looking into this. The fact that people are talking about they're looking into it and the 49ers are trying to solve the issue and make everyone feel comfortable playing there injury-wise, because they've had a lot of injuries, but we don't know why.
They got to do something.
They got to do something.
All right, let's transition real quick before we close this thing out.
Yeah, we got tea time, bro. You ready?
Yeah, well, not really. I'm a little worried. Give me 1 to 3 teams, Nick. Anywhere from 1 to give me, one or a few, primed to make the biggest jump next year relative to this past season. Now, let me tell you this: it can be by getting guys healthy, it can be by new coaches, it can be by talent acquisition and what you expect them to do from a talent acquisition standpoint. All those things. Give me any teams that jump to your mind that you think will make the biggest jump in 2026 relative to this year.
Yeah, we're gonna do relative to this year.
Yeah,
like I could start at the bottom of the barrel, and they're not gonna be this bad. They're gonna be better. The Jets are not one of them. They're gonna still be bad. And I love Frank Reich, but that's just an uphill battle. He'll be good for that offense, but I'm not gonna start there. I'm gonna go with what I think. I think the Raiders. Getting Clinton Kubiak, younger guy, offensive mind. They're gonna get Fernando Mendoza. A quarterback. They're not gonna be as bad as they were. So that's one. I think they're going to show signs of improvement.
Think they're over 500?
I think they'll be. I wouldn't even bet on that. Listen. All they got to do is win 7 games, and that's a much better year. New Orleans Saints, Kellen Moore, year 2.
I like that.
Tyler Shuck. I think they like what they have. Before the season, I didn't even know who he was, but I don't follow college football as much. Thought he did really well, and I think they found a quarterback that they can build on in year 2. So I like the New Orleans Saints. And if I had a third that would take a big step, man.
You don't have to do 3.
I sort of want to do 3, but I got to think about it.
I think I only have 2.
No, I got a third. It's the NFC East team. I like the hire. I think they're going to be – they were bad last year. They got a good quarterback, and now they got John Harbaugh. So I like them making a step forward. I like them being a more competitive, complete team. I just thought they were poorly coached last year. They have talent. I just thought the coaching was poor, and they have a quarterback they can build off. So those are my 3.
Hear what John said? He said we got to build a team that can beat the Eagles. So he's looking at that's the gold standard of the division, and we got to find a way to build a team. That can beat it's kind of obvious, but to hear him say it is.
Well, it's not the Cowboys. I thought.
Duh.
I thought. Honestly, in all respect to them, I thought Schottenheimer did way better than I thought he would. I thought he was actually a really good head coach, and I was very impressed with him. The Commanders, man, they were the biggest. I thought they were the biggest surprise in the sense of just how bad they were under Dan Quinn. I have a lot of respect for Dan Quinn. Getting them to the NFC Championship the year before against the Eagles. They weren't really competitive in that game, but man, for what they did this year, I know Jaden Daniels was hurt a lot, but they just looked awful.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think if you're going into it, you want to beat the best, and the Eagles are the best in that conference. They own that conference right now.
I'm not sure. I was thinking maybe Kansas City. I'm not going to say that, though, because Mahomes is supposed to be back week 1 after tearing his ACL sort of late in the season. But I'll pause on that one. Eric Bieniemy's back. I do think they'll be better offensively. They need some talent. I need to see where they're going to go talent-wise offensively especially at receiver, before I throw them in there. But I'll do this. I'll say Baltimore. I like Jesse Minter a lot. I think it mainly is going to be a health thing with them. They'll be healthy. I think they have some new blood at coach, or new coaching blood, and I think they'll make an acquisition or 2 to help them out. So I think Baltimore will be a playoff team next year. They were not this year. They were almost. They missed a field goal. They were almost. But I think Baltimore will be remarkably better next year than this year. This year was like, man, they struggled. I think the Chargers will be better next year, mainly because of health. I think they'll get more help on the offensive line, but they'll also get healthy. Rashawn Slater will be back. Joe Alt will be back. It'll be a different team when they're regularly protecting Herbert. Herbert has gone, he's like one of 3 quarterbacks to go like 50-plus starts or whatever or more without winning a playoff game. And Herbert's good enough to be a playoff winning quarterback, and I think that happens next year. So I think the Chargers take a step. I really like the Giants. I would say Commanders because it was so bad this year and they were really good the year before. They got all the way to the NFC title game the year before. But they got rid of some of their staff. Cliff Kingsbury's gone. I'm just not sure how Jaden Daniels is going to jive with the next guy. So there's still question marks for me with the Commanders, and I'm not ready to say they're going to take a huge jump. So I'll stick with Baltimore and the Chargers, and I also like the Giants. Let's do one more here. So we also could say teams that could regress. I don't want to spend a bunch of time on this, but like
I got two.
Okay, go ahead. Who could regress the most this year?
Well, I think, and I love Mike Vrabel, coach of the year, but I just think you look at, they're going to have a much tougher schedule. They did what they were supposed to do this year with the schedule, but they're going to regress. I don't think they're going to be 14-3 next year. I think they're going to be close. I mean, if they get over 10 wins with what their schedule is going to be next year, it's going to be pretty impressive. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a lot more difficult. The other team I have is the Denver Broncos. I just think throughout the course of the year, really good team. If Bo Nix stays healthy, they're probably playing in the Super Bowl, in my opinion, because of the mistake in the red zone. But at the same time, they weren't an offensive juggernaut. They were a great defense that found a way at the end of the games to offensively come back into it. And hats off to them for doing that. They did what they're supposed to do. But that's just something that you can't sustain. And then how he sort of has this knee-jerk reaction to fire his longest tenured coach, like in his coaching, Lombardi, just getting rid of him because he had just felt a certain way. To me, man, that shows signs of going into this next year that they're just not going to be as good and it's not going to be as stable. And you know what? It's going to be, once again, a tougher schedule. And their offense wasn't clean through 4 quarters throughout games throughout the season. So I just don't see them taking a step, staying where they were. I think they take a step back.
I agree on the Patriots, mainly for scheduling reasons, right? I think that's a big deal. And then I'll also say the Steelers, only because I don't hate the Mike McCarthy hire. I'm fine with it. Some people don't like it. There's talk about Aaron possibly coming back. I still think Aaron can play. But at times this year, I kept asking myself, like, because there were rough times for them this year where they couldn't complete a pass more than 20 yards down the field. So there's part of me with Aaron, like, as I watched this year, even when he was playing well, I'm like, gosh, he's getting up there. It'll be 42 and all that. Can he really keep this up? I wouldn't be surprised, even if Aaron comes back, if this is not a playoff team. So that would be some regression, given that Baltimore, I think, is going to be better.
Yeah.
So that's one as well. Give me 2 coaches that you already think for next year are on the hot seat. Let me give you some examples. Aaron Glenn of the Jets. I'm surprised he made it through this year. Todd Bowles. Surprised he made it through this year. Zach Taylor of the Bengals. I'm surprised he made it through this year. Now, here's some others that might not be as obvious. Dan Quinn, right? Dan Quinn, it was a rough year. Like, he can't afford to have 2 bad years. Mm-hmm. And this is the NFL, the rule of thumb in general. 2 bad years, you're probably gone.
Yeah.
Matt LaFleur. He was on it this year at times, I thought. And if they're not making a playoff run next year, it could be a Sean McDermott type thing where it's time to move on. Nick Sirianni. If things fall apart offensively and they don't do much this year, I think he's in trouble, right? And then some people might even say, hey, like, if the Colts fall apart again, is Shane Steichen in trouble? If the Vikings, like, don't see any development from their quarterback, their young quarterback, is Kevin O'Connell in trouble, right? After 2, it's really 2 seasons put you in jeopardy. So do any of those guys jump out for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the Jets, man, with Aaron Glenn. This year surprised me with him. I think it was just really just a bad year. And I think it goes back to, he's a defensive head coach, that their defense was a huge issue. No turnovers, no interceptions. They might have got some fumbles, but no interceptions. They go out there and, they're hiring Frank Reich to conduct the offense. They just hired Bill Musgrave to be the quarterback coach. But, and I've been with both those guys. I have a lot of respect for both those guys. I think, they're good coaches that'll do a good job, but is it going to be enough? And, they're older. I mean, a lot of these younger coaches are the ones that are relating to the players and really, jiving with the players. So it's going to be an uphill battle. Aaron Glenn obviously has a lot of confidence in Frank Reich. I do as well. I won a Super Bowl with him. He's a good friend. I wish him the best. I think he's a great coach. It's just it's going to be a tough battle. New York Jets are not used to being successful. They have to change their mindset. They honestly need someone like a Kurt Signetti that can go in there and be like, this is not acceptable. Like, we're not thinking this way. We're going to change the way we think, the way we do things. We're not just going to accept that we're just not a good team, or we're going to be a great team. Those coaches don't really exist. There's only a few of them. Mm-hmm. Kurt Signetti showed that. I mean, to turn around Indiana and win a national championship is unheard of. That's what the Jets need. They need that mentality, and I don't think they have it in there.
Vrabel.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's basically, I would say Aaron Glenn, Todd Bowles, Zach Taylor, Dan Quinn of the Commanders, and Matt LaFleur all are. The others, Nick Sirianni, Kevin O'Connell, Brian Schottenheimer, Shane Steichen, I would say are, if there's serious regression, then those guys are as well. Like, if they have, we've really gone backwards, right? Yeah. Then those guys are as well. There's not going to be a huge leash, which is crazy because Shane had a great start this year. But to fall apart, and then, like, Colts got to make the playoffs next year. Otherwise, there's going to be some questions, right? I love Shane. But
Shane's the best, dude.
Yeah. All right. Before we finish up, too, just a quick note on the Eagles. Obviously, everyone knows they hired Sean Mannion as their offensive coordinator. Pass game coordinator spot is filled with the guy from Tampa. Is it Grizzard or Grizzard? I never know how to pronounce it. Does anyone know how to pronounce that name? Most importantly, though, Jeff Stoutland, their offensive coordinator, is out. In comes Chris Cooper as their offensive line coach. Now, Chris has been in Minnesota the last 4 seasons. What's odd is he's not going to be the run game coordinator. The run game coordinator is a guy that was a wide receivers coach for the Packers last year, and Ryan Mahaffey. I think that's how you pronounce that as well, which is weird. Like, we follow the NFL like crazy, and why do I not know how to pronounce a lot of these names? So, look, this is risky for the Eagles. Much of these moves, by the way, have not even been publicly acknowledged by the team quite yet. There's still no word on Lane Johnson and Landon Dickerson on the offensive line and what their plans are. There's rumors that they've even at least considered retirement. But Jordan Mailata, Cam Jurgens, and Tyler Steen will be back. And for the first time in over 3 years, I think the Eagles will draft somebody in the first 2 rounds on the offensive line. They haven't needed to do it because they've been good up front. I think it's time for them to do that. But there are some new faces, new divisions of responsibility in Philly, and this all comes with a significant amount of risk for what they're trying to accomplish because there is zero patience for this Eagles offense making big jumps this year. And they've got a lot of guys in place that are young, pretty new to what's going on, and they don't even have a lot of clarity on some personnel and whether or not guys will be back next year. So that'll be something to keep an eye on this offseason for the Eagles.
Yeah, if I'm just going through the last decade of the Eagles of different moves, different situations, and, just all these key moments, these inflection points, this is a huge one. Yeah. I'm circling this one as like the biggest. And the big reason is the fact that Stoutland walks, there's something going on there that, for him to feel that way. And what people don't realize is, and I don't even know if Howie realizes this, he might have, but he might not have thought it was a big deal, is, you got guys like Lane Johnson, Hall of Famer, all these different things. Like, if Stoutland's still there, is he still playing? Absolutely, he's playing. But because he's not there, he's probably weighing in. It's like, all right, I got family, got kids, married, all these different things. Like, Stout's not my coach, now I got a new coach. Like, Stout's always been my coach. That's who I've gone to battle with. Like, that matters. That means a lot. Mm-hmm. And for him not to be there, like, all right, I can go do other stuff. Like, how's my body? You lose all those guys and all those things happen. And listen, I don't know the history of a wide receiver coach going to be a run game coordinator. I'll tell you what, I mean, I'd have to look at his bio and look at it more deeply. But there's not many wide receivers or wide receiver coaches out there that I would ever have doing my run game coordinating, which is very surprising. All those things. Now, listen, it could be masterful. Like, goes back to what I said about Sean. Sean's a bright mind. He's got a bright future. Yeah. It's a hard place to start in Philly.
Well, a lot of this goes back to, like, that coaching tree.
Yeah.
Like Matt LaFleur's coaching tree and, like, Kevin O'Connell. And, like, because Sean Mannion was in Minnesota with Kevin O'Connell.
He's still a young coach, though.
And that offensive line coach, Chris Cooper. Like, those guys were all there. So that it all goes back to that school of thought. And I think he's thinking we all speak the same language. Let's try to – which, okay, fine. But if you're Nick Sirianni, you're like, better work.
I mean, who knows? It might just be all the ingredients that don't make sense, but makes like the best cake you've ever had.
Maybe.
Or whatever it may be.
It's going to be very little patience.
There's no patience.
Yeah.
Listen, like this, the last time a coach made all these decisions where, and I don't know who made all these decisions. Maybe it was Howie, maybe it was Mr. Lurie, or maybe it was all Nick Sirianni. I don't know. I'm not trying to go in the building and be an Adam Schefter. I don't want to do that. But the last time this happened was at Chip Kelly, and it didn't go well, and that was it. Because you take all this control, you say this is the issue, you upset like a legendary coach like Coach Stoutland. You know what? It's all on you. If it works, you know what? Like, you know what? Howie and Mr. Roy, whoever didn't make the decision will probably get a lot of the credit. But, like, if it doesn't work, it's going to be on you. So it's a key moment. A lot of young minds that are bright. I mean, this is what? Sean Mannion's third year coaching?
Yes.
Something like that. I mean, that's a young
quarterback coach, or assistant quarterback coach, then offensive.
I mean, that's a pretty quick trajectory. Yeah. I listen. I got his back. I'm ready for him to go do his thing. But man, it's going to be a battle.
I saw someone say recently that late in the season, Stoutland, at some point later in the season, Stoutland was no longer the run game coordinator.
Yeah,
we didn't even know it at the time, and they were defending the move because they said, well, the Eagles started to run the ball well late in the season. I'm like, guys. First of all, shut up. Because the reality is, like, in the Chargers game, they had a fake tush push that went 65 yards, and that plays into why Saquon went over 100 in that game.
Listen,
right? Like,
when we were looking
when I hear that stuff, I'm like, that is so – it's a clueless take.
I'm actually getting, like, upset, a little bit at the Eagles because I love Stout. And if that's going to be the argument that they take, which it is, like, listen, when we were covering the season, the last 3 games of the season, y'all were playing against no one. Yeah. Like, we knew you were going to win those games. So if we're saying those were the games that y'all ran the ball well, y'all were playing against no one. Right. They weren't good. Raiders were one of them. They were awful. So let's not say like, oh, Stoutland was doing. Y'all ran 8,000 hitches. Right. Y'all had no concepts.
Right.
Y'all weren't utilizing your receivers. When you motion, there was no purpose in your motion. I watched it. I detailed it, and I sat there and said, if I ran this on scout team, I would be bored at practice because that's what this offense looks like. And to throw it on your offensive line coach and say, oh, we didn't make him run game coordinator at the end of the season, and all of a sudden you played against bad teams.
And a fake tush push got you 65 of your yards.
Listen, and that's me just having Stouts back and those guys back that knows what's going on. Listen, you know what? Those are, we had Kevin. We talked a lot about Kevin. Kevin's now in Miami, all these different things. Like, that's going to hurt you. Stout not being there is going to hurt you. And to put it on him, I have a problem with that because I watched enough of that offense to know that was not a dynamic offense. You had a Ferrari of players. Mm-hmm. And it's like, Richard Sherman said, you're what, a Toyota Corolla engine? That's what it was. Mm-hmm. And everyone saw it and everyone knows it. And that's where, like, if I'm Nick Sirianni, I'm an offensive head coach. I got to fix this thing right now. I know you're leading men and stuff, but you got to have something conceptually to go in there and say, this is what we're going to do. We're going to streamline it. We're not going to run 8. What was the statistic when Sean Mannion? I know it was the laughable one. It's like Eagles run 800 hitches. Green Bay only ran 320. Mm-hmm. It's like that right there shows you everything. Mm-hmm. So, listen, big offseason. They have a lot of skill set. A lot of answers in Philadelphia need to be answered. They don't have it. This is going to be a big inflection point because they won the NFC East. They're going to have a tough schedule.
Yep.
John Harbaugh is now in the NFC East. Schottenheimer's now in year 2. They're going to be better. Dan Quinn has had a bad year. The NFC East is going to be – this is going to be the year the NFC East is a lot better. It's going to be very, very difficult for the Eagles. They are, in my opinion, they're not starting on the right foot going this offseason. It's an uphill battle. But you know what? Time will tell and we'll see, and we'll always cheer them on and we'll always talk. But I'm going to talk critically because I just don't like things have gone down. I haven't talked to Stout about it in detail, but at some point we'll have him on the pod and we'll dive into it. But that guy's a great coach that has all the respect you saw from the players. So I don't ever want to hear anyone say that the run game was better at the end of the season because if you look at the schedule, the end of the season was crap.
Speaking of offseason, we're going to have a good one. And reminder to everybody, huge thank you for listening throughout the season. This has been episode 34, kind of our end of the 2025 football season podcast, even though we're going to keep going through the offseason. Maybe not every week, but we'll keep a cadence going. Reminder to leave in the comments certain guests you might want to see us have on. Could be Eagles, could be NFL, could be culture, sports, whatever. And we will find a cadence over the course of the offseason. We'll have some fun projects we're going to work on. And make sure and follow us on Instagram to see some of the stuff that we're working on. Maybe we'll tease some things that we might be releasing soon. We expect to have a fun offseason. Really looking forward to next season as well. But for now, that is the end of the 2025 season. This has been episode 34. Thank you for listening.
Thank y'all.